My name's Aaron of Altcoin Daily on YouTube, one of the biggest crypto YouTube channels in the world, and I'm joined by these legends and builders in the space today. Just want to say, props to Bitget, 5 years. Singapore is abuzz with just energy because of Bitget Summit. Some could say it's the F1 race, some could say it's Token 2049, but no, it's Bitget. So good to be here. To start things off, we'll be talking about the difference between layer 1s and layer 2s and alternative layer 1s and interoperability. And to get things started, I just want everybody to introduce themselves. We'll go down the line. Please introduce yourself. Tell us if you're an L1 or L2 or what your core competency is, and what makes you unique. We'll start with you, Polygon.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Mihailo, founder of Polygon. Polygon is a multi-layer 2 network. It's basically a layer 2 ecosystem built on top of Ethereum. As a founder, I deal mainly with tech side of things, I guess special ops and whatever needs to be done as in every startup. So yeah, that's about it.
Excellent.
My name is Adeniyi Abiodun. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Mysten Labs. We are the creators of a blockchain that was called Libra at Facebook. We invented a language called Move at the time, and we left Facebook to build a much more scalable blockchain. I've been in crypto since 2012, building companies in the Web3 space actually quite early. So started off in Bitcoin, went over to other crypto as well, and built enterprise blockchains as well for VMware and Oracle, and also led the R&D work at Facebook as a product lead for Libra, Project Libra.
Hey, Bryan, Pellegrino, CEO of LayerZero Labs. We're an interoperability protocol, so a little bit different. Our job is to connect all of them, but yeah, happy to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm Cecilia, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Morphism. I believe it's the first time that every of you heard about Morphism, because this is the first time we really talk about it publicly. So just give me a minute to introduce about it. We actually start to develop it at the end of February, so it's pretty new. And right now it's still at the alpha stage of the testnet. And next month we will have our beta version of our testnet, and hopefully at Q1 next year we are going to have our mainnet. So technically we are differentiated from other projects by our decentralized sequencer and also the optimistic ZK EVM. And also our vision is to foster the movement of the decentralized society. And me, personally, I'm a serial entrepreneur since 2014, so almost 10 years. But I was in management consulting before, and I'm in crypto since 2019. But I was more focused on investing and also funding of crypto exchanges before. So now I'm completely in a new career, and layer 2 is very, very different business than crypto exchanges. I mean, our target audience are completely different. So yeah, but I'm quite excited. And it's also my honor to sit here with 3 other very successful chains founders here today. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, before we get to more of an open panel discussion where everybody can chime in, I do want to get to know your individual projects a little bit more with specific questions for each one of you. We'll start with Mihailo. Called you Polygon earlier. Obviously, that's the project. A question for you, sir. Polygon gets some of the best press and partnerships in the space, in my opinion. Out of any other chain, is Polygon the best layer 2/sidechain in the space?
Do you expect me to answer no? Jokes aside, we have started Polygon in 2020, so roughly 3 years now ago, and since then our commitment has always been really to offer the best possible environment for developers, for projects out there, to really scale this idea that Ethereum introduced. Ethereum introduced this idea of programmable blockchain that you can use to program any Web3 use case, any Web3 application, and just deploy it, and it simply works. The thing with Ethereum is that it turned out that it cannot scale, right? It offered this huge kind of paradigm shift, but architecturally it is not able to accommodate mass adoption. And that's what we consider our mission. We are extending, so to say, this Ethereum block space and Ethereum functionality by offering this kind of ecosystem of layer 2 chains built on top of Ethereum. And I think it's a combination of the commitment of Polygon Labs, which is one of the companies building in the Polygon ecosystem, commitment to excellence when it comes to relationships with projects that are building, support, our relationship with developers, outreach, etc., and the bleeding edge technology that we have been able to deliver. I think combination of these two things has led to Polygon really becoming kind of the platform of choice for all the builders out there, from Web3 native projects to big enterprises, like I think really who's who of traditional companies, enterprises, traditional finance institutions, like from Franklin Templeton to on the consumer side to Coca-Cola to really you name it. We used to work with Meta and Facebook and social networks. Like really, I would say who's who of both Web3 native ecosystem and traditional Web2 ecosystem and traditional finance are choosing Polygon. I think Polygon has established itself. There used to be this kind of saying back in the days, no one gets fired for using IBM. So I think at this point, Polygon is kind of that safe bet, right? If you want to enter Web3, you know Polygon is reliable, you know you will get good support, you know we're investing and working a lot on bleeding edge technologies, and such as, for example, Polygon ZK EVM, which is the first, I would say, full featured and production ready ZK EVM technology, and I would say the most advanced piece of technology in the industry at the moment. So yeah, long story short, I think the combination of this high commitment from Polygon Labs for excellence in these relationships and support all these projects and bleeding edge technology have led to the kind of reputation that Polygon has today and this high level of adoption that we're very proud of, I would say.
Excellent. That's the alpha. Now let's throw it over to Aiden of Sui. You know, with all that being said, my question for you, sir, Ethereum and EVM chains have a big market share in the entire cryptocurrency industry. What would you say to somebody who says the ETH ecosystem is the only one worth building in?
I'll point to the fact that there are probably, arguably 5,000 to 10,000 devs in the ETH space. That's less developers than a department in Facebook. So I don't know what they're talking about. It's so early, the market is new. People are still trying to figure out where the scale is going to come from, where the use case is going to actually suffice. When we were building Libra, we looked at every single platform out there. We looked at Ethereum, we looked at Bitcoin bytecode, we looked at EVM, of course, we looked at every single piece of software that was out there that could deal with distributed systems, especially decentralized distributed systems, and nothing met the bill. Ethereum was massively, forget about scale as one thing, because I think scale gets talked about a lot, but that gets boring very quickly. Just pure security. It's very, very hard for a traditional developer to write safe code in Ethereum, and that's actually an impediment to growth and scale. You cannot grow a space where developers don't have a clue what they're actually building. So we took it upon ourselves to build Move. Move, if you are a standard programmer in C++, Java, any kind of object-oriented programming language, you can build in SwiMove very, very quickly. We've had people who came from Java and could build in SwiMove within 2 days. That's how you grow, and that's why Sui is seeing a massive adoption in actual real developers coming in. And the people we're targeting are actually standard Web 2 devs who are used to building microservices or building apps at scale, now want to take that use case and move into Web 3 and get the benefits there of that Web 3 offers. So I would say it's very, very early to be talking about winners and losers at this point because the market is very early. There aren't enough users in Web 3. The amount of users in Web 3 doing typical degen stuff, that is not the market, right? There are still 2-3 billion people who haven't touched Web 3 who could benefit from that. And that's the market we're going after from a Mysten perspective, and Sui.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not an Ethereum maxi. My YouTube channel is called Altcoin Daily. Thank you for the answer, sir. Let's jump over to Cecilia before we hit Bryan. Cecilia, Morphism doesn't quite have the brand recognition as, say, a Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism, ZK Sync, or Base. Is Morphism a hidden gem in the L2 space? Why or why not?
Yeah, it's a tough question. Yeah, we are pretty new. Like I said, that we are still in the testnet phase right now. Like everybody is asking that there are so many layer 2 projects already, so how can you stand out? I think, as I said, that we are trying to, actually our vision is trying to build the infrastructure for all these decentralized society apps in the future. So I think no other layer 2 project is focusing on this area right now, but also it's at a very, very early stage. I mean, Vitalik just wrote the paper last year, and the whole idea is pretty new. So we are also looking for like what kind of apps, what kind of dApps are going to be in decentralized society, and how can we help on that. Yeah, so this is basically what we are thinking about now, and also I want to take this chance to learn from all the other projects who are quite successful already. Yes.
I like it. So for the folks keeping track at home, before we jump to Bryan here, we have an Ethereum layer 2, a layer 1, an Ethereum layer 2,
Yeah.
and then we have something called LayerZero. You told me it's not a layer 1, it's not a layer 2. Can you help me figure out what is LayerZero in the context of this layer 1, layer 2 conversation?
Yeah, LayerZero is end-to-end messaging protocol. It's basically a mesh. It lives on each chain. It connects all. I think our big premise early on was that if you have your own chain as an interoperability layer, you basically force all security to be entirely reliant on that chain. If I have my own chain and I say everything must route through that, if my chain has any issue with security, I have the ability to arbitrarily write messages to every single chain because they're inherently trusting whatever comes out of that middle chain, which is just a huge systemic risk, especially when you're talking about kind of like even at this point right now, we do secure probably 10 plus billion, do tens of billions of dollars. We've probably transferred 50 to 100 billion through the network itself. So, I mean, you're talking like a lot, right, to secure in like one single external chain. So LayerZero is a mesh network. It has a library of contracts that lives on each chain called an endpoint, deals in nonce management, messaging, and validation on every chain, connected to every chain. And so you construct a packet, send the packet, and basically digest the packet. So if you think about a packet on the internet, it's basically two computers. You have compute, an array of bytes, and then another set of compute. LayerZero is exactly the same. Arbitrary contract invocation with a bytes array. So end of the day, what that means is that you can send any data across any chain that can fit a blockchain. I think we have something like 95 to 98% of all cross-chain messaging right now in terms of market share, so extremely widely used in production. Yeah.
Excellent. One more round of individual questions before we start to open it up to anybody who wants to speak on the general question. And it's kind of the same question to each of you, so we can just go down the line. What is the biggest misconception people have about your protocol? So we can start with Polygon.
A good question. I think the biggest misconception is probably that Polygon is that single chain that it's called Polygon POS chain. So Polygon POS chain is the first chain that we launched, that Polygon protocol or Polygon ecosystem has, and people still identify us with that single kind of chain, which is sidechain-like architecture, and it's far from the truth, right? Especially now since we announced what we call Polygon 2.0, which is the kind of consolidation of our architecture, and really we introduced this multi-layer 2 ecosystem that can host or support literally practically infinite number of layer 2s, and we are seeing a lot of chains already joining our ecosystem, and we already have, in terms of public networks, we have ZK EVM, which is a layer 2, full-blown layer 2 ZK EVM rollup that is active within Polygon ecosystem. So I think that's probably the biggest misconception. When people identify Polygon as which is actually a multi-layer 2 network, as I said, with Polygon POS chain, which is just the first chain that we started it. So I guess probably that's the biggest one.
Interesting. And we're all looking forward to Polygon 2.0. Sir, SUI network, what is the biggest misconception?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions or things we've heard a few times was that you need EVM compatibility as a chain. I think Solana is a good testament that that's not actually true. We made a deliberate decision not to use EVM. One, we do not believe any chain. I could tell you a multitude of technical reasons why that's true, beyond just the security aspect, but that's the reason why, with the design we've used with SUI Move, using a very safe language that's very close to Rust, SUI does not have a max TPS. Right? We benchmark SUI with the current validator set at 300,000 TPS if you add a second worker to each validator, it goes up to 600,000 TPS. The idea that you have a network and you're talking about max TPS is ridiculous, because when you build on Google, you build on AWS, they do not tell you I can only support 10 to 20 applications. You just build and they work out the scale in the back end. So Sui was built under that same premise. If we build infrastructure at Google and Facebook and we are figuring out a way on how to have these things dynamically add more capacity, how do we do that for Web3? And I feel we've achieved that with Sui. And the benefit of that is gas fee, from a dollar perspective, it's flat. Validators quote a dollar price for gas, and it gets translated into Sui. And immaterial about how much transactions go on the network, validators simply add more workers to counter the demand. So there is no increase in gas fee based on traffic. There is no max CPS. And we think that's why we're going after gaming, because we think gaming from that perspective is going to need a lot of volume. It's going to be where a lot of transactions come from. And we're actually seeing a growth in DeFi at the same time.
Excellent. Bryan, biggest misconception of LayerZero?
I would say the biggest misconception is it's a reasonably hard subject matter to grok. I think a lot of people like to treat all of the messaging protocols as largely fungible, that they're basically the same. LayerZero architecture is just extremely different from most others. Most other protocols, I consider them messaging services versus protocols. They basically construct a validator set. They say this validator set will scale to meet the security demands of everything that's connecting, and that will be enough. We had the thesis very early on that there was no validation methodology that existed 2 to 3 years ago when we started that would scale 5 to 10 years in the future. Rapidly developing field, nothing we were going to bet on. So our protocol was built in a way such that LayerZero is agnostic to what validation methodology is used in the middle. And so actually, even just recently, we started with this simple TSS. We had Chainlink come in, and then we had Polyhedra, which was an entire ZK-like client built. It was the first ever to do the entire ETH consensus, right? Any other messaging protocol that exists right now could fit within LayerZero as the validation layer. Like where we actually, where it's permissionless, any of them could do that today. And Polyhedra itself in its own right could have been spun out as a competitive messaging layer and chose to build internally to LayerZero instead as one of the validators inside and basically bootstrap distribution. So they've done millions of messages already. I think they have done more messaging volume in 2 months than every other messaging protocol has done lifetime outside of the core LayerZero. So I'd say that's the biggest misconception by far.
LayerZero, anything but static. Cecilia, biggest misconception of Morphism?
I think I'll pass this question for now.
No problem. No misconceptions. That is good. I guess, before we get into everybody, big general questions, a question actually for Polygon and Morphism. Say as little or as much as you like. Would either of you consider yourself Ethereum ecosystem maxis?
I would say I don't really like the word maxi, obviously. Any type of maximalism is almost sort of like some sort of fundamentalism. And if you are fundamentalist in such a young and dynamic industry like Web3, I'm not sure that's going to end up well for you, and I'm not sure that really makes sense. So, but that being said, I personally have very high level of confidence that Ethereum has reached sort of that critical mass and very strong network effects and level of tooling, level of adoption, mind share, even that kind of some abstract component of kind of emotional attachment. So Ethereum is still the only protocol, the only community that people strongly identify with, that really inspires people, right? So there are all these components, both kind of rational and even irrational, that are drawing people to Ethereum. And apart from all the applications, users, all the value that exists in Ethereum, the network effects are really, really strong. That's one thing. The second thing is that Ethereum is the most decentralized, the most battle-tested blockchain in the world at the moment, with hundreds of thousands of validators and years of running in production. And as such, represents a great, I would say, or the best that we have in the industry, settlement layer, the foundation for this layer 2 ecosystem that you're building on. And the third thing is that it's our thesis, and I think it's kind of obvious that if you're talking about mass or global adoption, no single chain, regardless layer 1 or layer 2, can support mass or global adoption. They are kind of inherent limitations of blockchain. Like even if there are no blockchains, if you assume we're building kind of alternative to current traditional global economy. We're trying to build this global network of value that is basically allowing everyone to participate in. We're building kind of this permissionless global alternative to global economy, right? And there's going to be thousands and thousands of transactions per second there if we achieve our goal and this grand vision. And not even a single server, centralized server, can process all that activity. Not to mention blockchains, because blockchains by design have this consensus overhead on top of, compared to, for example, centralized single servers. So it's not technically possible to support global adoption with a single chain, layer 2 or layer 1, whatever. So I think the only approach is to just have this multitude of layer 2s on top of a highly decentralized, secure, battle-tested layer 1. And seems like Ethereum, again, because of everything I said, is the right choice for that kind of vision or that architecture.
Not a maxi, but it's my job to ask the provocative questions. It was a loaded word. Cecilia, would you consider yourself an Ethereum ecosystem maxi? Definitely don't have to be one at all, but yes or no?
Well, I think like Ethereum is still the most prosperous. It still has the most prosperous developer community, and also like the developers there are super active, and it's actually one of our, I would say not one of, but our best choice to build our layer 2 on top of it. And also like they offer the very transparent governance model, and also it like support us with the safety and also the consensus for us to have like stable layer 2 on that. So we are not going to try to build up like a new chain, a completely layer 1 new chain, but we are going to leverage that safety and consensus of Ethereum and their whole ecosystem, and also like meanwhile to increase the availability of the dApps like development and also our user experience. So that's our thought. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. From this point on, we're going to open it up to open discussion. Anybody can chime in and start a discussion on these questions as we're trying to understand the differences between L1s and L2s and the trade-offs. And I guess for this particular one, I want to start with Aiden. But this might be a very simple question, but not everybody understands this. How do you define the difference between a layer 1 versus a layer 2 versus a side chain in the context of their respective use cases? Help us understand the difference.
Yeah, a layer 1 or base layer predominantly is really where the mass amount of economic activity actually happens on, right? For example, if you look at Ethereum, Ethereum is very well adopted. It has a large amount of value trapped in, and it's been built in over time. And over time, it's realized that Ethereum is unable to meet the needs of the existing ecosystem. Therefore, as a result of not having a scalable infrastructure or ability to scale Ethereum fast enough, you have the growth of layer 2s. And layer 2s effectively allow you to do transactions off ledger, off the main ledger, in a more scalable way, and computationally store them on the main layer from time to time. Some might do it via rollup, some might do it via other kind of mechanisms, but that's the same kind of idea. Now, the reason why we have a myriad of layer 2s is because Ethereum doesn't scale, and most layer 2s are Ethereum-based. Side chains, I'll probably talk more about app chains. Specifically, if you take a look at something like, what's a good example? Lost my mind. But
Friendtech.
That, but there's another one that does derivatives. It's actually a really, really good protocol. The reason why they have an app chain is not just on the scale side, because I think the skills are, of course, compelling, but there are economic incentives that would not be caught by using a native layer 1 or layer 2. So building that specifically into the app allows them, for example, trading fees and maybe front running and certain elements of protocol that they could leverage.
It's more like a deeper engineering discussion. What Adeniyi is arguing that single layer 1 can support global adoption. I tend to disagree, but it's really a little bit deeper technical discussion. I don't think we have bandwidth, but of course, all opinions are perfectly valid.
Continue that discussion down in the comments, but we have other questions to get to. And for this next one, I want to start with either Bryan or Cecilia. But I guess this is kind of a question for Polygon and Morphism, but we'll start with Cecilia or Bryan. Why is it important to be interoperable with EVM chains and products? And then after we'll get to Sui, why is it not important maybe? But why is it important to be interoperable with EVM chains and products? Or is it? What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm like, I love the EVM ecosystem. I'm not EVM maxi. I would say, like one of the most important things, I think the strongest things that come from the EVM ecosystem is composability. I actually think that's something that a lot of other chains have struggled with. I think Solana, I think Move have basically not had as deep composability as the Ethereum EVM ecosystem has. I think it's been one of the strongest network effect drivers across all EVM ecosystems. And I think it's something that other chains are growing into. And so I can't comment on Sui Move specifically because it's been a little while since I played with the code base. But when we launched on Aptos, I remember there was even like simple things like you couldn't do like airdrops without needing the addresses to like register the specific token, which made it like very hard to do things that were very simple on the EVM ecosystem. So for us, when you do that is when you're sending in a transaction, what you want to do is abstract away gas. So if you're coming from Polygon and going there, you want to be able to basically have the user pay in Matic and get airdrop like the native token of the other chain on the other side, right? And so you couldn't do that or couldn't do mechanisms around that without certain things. So Solana didn't have dynamic dispatch. So what you want to be able to do is basically create a composable construct. So like Stargate is a great example of this, where you have applications on both sides going to do something, like maybe swap here and then swap there, but you have an inventory problem. You swap, but you have your USDC sitting on chain A and you need it on chain B, right? You want to like get rid of that layer, abstract that layer away. And so what you need is a thing that sits here that basically can be composed by the application, can basically transfer and call on the other side. Very, very, very hard to do that in a system that doesn't have dynamic dispatch. And so one of the things that I think the EVM ecosystem gets right is that nature of composability, because I think if you look at all of the primary usage around EVM these days really is driven by those constructs, whether it's indexes, whether it's the lending protocols, whether it's all of it. And so I think why you want to be interoperability is that same nature. I think it is the whole point. If you're going to have, if we're trending to this direction where we're going to have 20, 50, 100, 500, 5,000 chains, whatever it is, as applications are owning their own chains, as the stack is sort of rolling out horizontally, if you don't have that nature to create fungible experiences between them, if you don't have that nature to be able to have applications compose one another, it's going to be a very, very difficult and fragmented user experience. And so, again, well, I think there are very compelling trade-offs, and I think a lot of advancements are being made. I think you guys are doing great work. I think there's a lot of stuff that is happening, like moving the field forward. I think right now, with what has been used and what is most useful, I think that is the reason that you want an EVM ecosystem. Like, our largest usage by far, has been layer 2 to layer 2. We thought it would be layer 2 to layer 1. We thought people would use the native bridge to go up into the layer 2 and then want to bypass the 7-day rollup period and come back because they don't want to wait. Fine, totally reasonable. What we've realized is that they treat the layer 2 experience, whether it's Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, whatever it is, once they've made the decision to go to layer 2, they don't want to wait 7 days to come back. If you did something cool here on Arbitrum Nova and you want to go to Nitro or go to Optimism, you don't want to wait 7 days, come back, pay an ETH transaction, go up again, and then do something on the other chain. You want to jump over. You want those experiences to be homogeneous to you. And so we have definitely seen that as one of the strongest drivers, and I think it's just compelling to that. So, yeah.
Excellent. I want Aiden to do a follow-up, and then I want to jump to Cecilia specifically, because I do want to find out more about Morphism. But Aiden, Sui Network, you know, obviously you chosen not to be EVM compatible. That wasn't important to you. Can you explain that decision?
Yeah, I could touch on a few things. First of all, we chose not to be ETH compatible from a language perspective, but from a bridging perspective, absolutely. I think we have like 2 or 3 bridges on Sui where people are actually actively moving assets from Ethereum over to Sui. The reason why we chose not to be EVM compatible is we actually challenge the idea that you have this element of composability. We think you don't really get much composability on EVM, right? The fact that in Sui Move, I can emit an object, and that object can go into another contract, and it's fully composable, and you cannot break the bounds or rules around that object. That is something you want to have, right? So we think true permissionless composability can be afforded once you break the bounds of actually having EVM compatibility. And to add on that, dynamic dispatch is a bad thing for decentralized systems. I'm sorry, right? Like, that's why we have all these bugs that we continuously have in EVM, and interfaces continually add to that. So I think our choice has been safety first. Safety by using a programming language that we can prove actually has the properties we care about. Compatibility from having the ability to bring liquidity from additional chains, whether it's EVM, Polygon, Solana, that's something you have already on Sui. So it was a decision we took, and it's a decision we think was the right one.
We only have a couple more minutes. I want to do final question. I want to start with Cecilia. Tell us what we can look forward to with Morphism coming up in the end of 2023, going into 2024. Take as much time as you like, and then we'll go down the line in our final minute.
Well, as I said, that we are still at the testnet phase now, but for the Q1 next year, we are going to have the mainnet beta version, and also we are seeking for the fundraising at the moment. So yeah, and also like we are trying to build up the whole ecosystem with Ethereum together, and trying to foster the movement of decentralized society. And also, like for the previous questions we mentioned, Morphism is EVM equivalent, like layer 2. So actually, the Ethereum users can adapt Morphism and access Morphism, and also build their dApps on us like seamlessly. So this is something we are going to discuss and interact with all these developer community during the next half of this year, and also trying to talk with our investors for the future planning. Yes.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to that. And in our last minute, let's everybody take 15 seconds, the other 3, and final thought. Give yourself a plug, your project a plug, and what can we look forward to in the next year? Bryan, we can start with you.
I would say the biggest thing is same thing we've continued to do. Our goal is sort of create the things with the highest utility. I think, like I said, in terms of messaging volume, we've basically capped out in terms of market share. So our goal is how do we basically grow that? How do we make it easier for developers and applications to build? How do we make that L2 experience more seamless?
My thing would be just more users. I think we should not lie to ourselves and behave and pretend that we've got mass adoption in crypto. We just don't. It is a tiny fraction of the world, and we really need to be thinking about how we build in a piece of technology to make it easy to onboard the next billion users, and that really matters. And those are the things that we're focusing on indexing on.
Thank you, sir.
On our side, definitely Polygon 2.0. I would say Polygon 2.0 is a culmination of all the work and all the efforts that we have done so far on the tech side. We have done so much experimentation. We have invested only in ZK. We committed $1 billion in funds for acquisitions, for research, for development. Polygon ZK EVM is the first major kind of result of that, of all that effort. And now with Polygon 2.0, everything that we have done so far, we have done multiple client development efforts, multiple ZK efforts. So really, really quite a lot. We are consolidating all of that into one single architecture, one single tech stack that we're kind of very confident about, and it's like this multi-layer 2, as I said, ecosystem powered by bleeding edge ZK technology, seamlessly interoperable, practically infinitely scalable. We are very, very excited about the whole idea. I would invite everyone to read about Polygon 2.0 and kind of join us and contribute if you're interested, because it's a very exciting idea.
Thank you all very much. You guys are all legends in the space, building the future in the cryptocurrency world. And thank you all very much. Give it up for these guys.